Hello ladies and gentlemen, Green here, and very many new players have a problem when building their team. They really don't know how to build them exactly and don't know what characters to use. So what I'll do today is I will make a list with 10 characters from best to worst that you can put in any team in the game. Well, basically not in everything. No character on this list can be put in every team because while most of the characters on this list will benefit any team in the game, for some characters there are very specific teams required. But how I'll rank them? I will rank them on one point how useful they are, and on the other side on how many types of teams they can be put on. Because while some characters on this list can benefit any team, some other characters can benefit most teams, but will not be useful in some certain situations. So we'll go down from the bottom to the top, going into the number one most versatile character that can be put in any single team in the entire game. So with all that being said, like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, feel free to comment down below with any questions that you might have about this video or about Injustice Mobile in general. Subscribe for more content like this, and at 2000 subscribers I'll start live streaming, so also you might want to subscribe for that. And with all that being said, maybe hit that bell button to get notified for every single upload. Let's get into it! So, coming in at number 10, we're going to have SPEEDFORCE the Flash. First of all, we'll talk about what made him make it to this list, and then we'll talk about why isn't he higher on this list. So basically his passive is going to give the entire team plus 30% fast attack chance. That makes him a very useful character in any team at the start of the game, because every single team in the entire game will benefit from fast attack chance. And on top of that, he will be able to ignore damage while being in a rush attack or in an evade attack. And the top players that play a lot of SPEEDFORCE the Flash can push this to very amazing limits, making him amazing in the arena and Champions Arena. But the main thing, yet again, that he's on this list for is going to be the fast attack chance that he offers for our team. And while this is a great buff, not every single character in the game will benefit so greatly from this buff. Some characters rely more on using lots of skills, so while fast attack chance will be amazing in the early game, at later stages on the game, this character and another character that will go over at number 9 are the only characters on this list that really don't make it into any big teams for their passives. But until you get to that point, and if you're a beginner, you're most likely very far away from that point, SPEEDFORCE the Flash, just stick him in any team that you might need and you will get that additional fast attack chance. The problem is that later on there are much more important things that you need to give for your team, and a slot in your team will not be enough to be covered for 30% fast attack chance. And the other thing is that if your character will reach the maximum limit of fast attack, which is 75%, it will not go over the limit by this bonus, and this 30% will be wasted. So with all that being said, a great character, you can put him in any team, but later on in the game he will not have such a great role in that. With all that being said, let's move on to the number 9. Coming in at number 9, we will have Bane, and Bane is going to give your team critical attack chance, and at the same time will give additional damage to basic attacks, step attacks and swipe attacks. Yet again, as with Multiverse the Flash, the bonus will be amazing in the early game. You can even use him later on in the game in some specific teams, but as you get later on in the game and you start building your characters, most of your characters will reach the maximum amount of critical attack chance, and that will be wasted. But unlike Multiverse the Flash, you'll be able to also provide additional buffs to basic attacks, tag attacks and swipe attacks, and those will make a pretty decent difference. So even though he's not the perfect support for any character in the game, he can be even used later on in some teams, and I have seen people actually use him in raids if they are using the Justice League team, but they are missing Justice League the Flash because Justice League the Flash goes with Let's Level Joker or Black Manta. So they are using Bane with Cyborg and Justice League Aquaman. The critical attack chance will go to waste in that scenario because you are most likely going to have them full critical attack chance and damage, but they will still receive that damage boost. So for those reasons he will be ranked higher than SPEEDFORCE the Flash, for the early game and for new players, this character can be used in any single team. Just be careful to not put him in teams that already have close to maximum critical attack chance, because you are not using his passive to maximum potential. So with all that being said, an amazing character, great character, very easily accessible and early accessible character that you can use for a team, but later on in the game not the best pick for any team in the game. So with all that being said, let's move on to the next pick. Next up we will have Armored Superman, and Armored Superman is the definition of a good average character. So overall this guy will not do that much on his own, but he's good at two things. First of all, the fact that he provides additional defense to your team, and then the fact that he's going to ignore the first special attack of your opponent. So this guy will be accessible to everybody because you unlock him through the achievements, and the defense bonus will be applicable to your entire team, and that way you can just stick him in a team that you need to have a tank in, and he will also act as a support character buffing their defense. And even though this character is not used in raids, you can use him in the early levels in raids for a good early game combo builder for your King of Lands Aquaman when you don't really have many characters to help him out, and can be also used later in the game, not in the raids, but you can use him in the arena, because while you are going to build some of your damage dealers for raids with very little tanky stats, this guy can just give them that little bit additional armor so they can avoid getting one-shotted in the arena. You could make arguments that Bane is a little bit more useful and should have been the 8th place instead of him, but I like to keep him at the 8th place because of his versatility late game in the arena, that you can stick him in any team and most characters will benefit from that additional defense, and on top of that he's going to be a pretty tanky character on his own and you can count on him. So with all that being said, unfortunately only number 8 for this guy because we have much better characters coming up. Next up we're going to have Nightmare Batman. Nightmare Batman will be very good because of his passive, will be Nightmare Ambush, and this will give you 3 seconds advantage. That means that for the 3 seconds of the fight the enemy will be stunned, and this triggers only once per fight, not once for every enemy that tags in or something like that. And at the same time has a very high chance to reflect damage from basic attacks and tag attacks and swipe attacks, and that makes him an amazing tank. So overall he's not higher on this list because he does not directly buff the rest of your team, but he can be stuck into any team that really needs a tank, because he's a tank and he's going to tank damage and will take loads of damage because the attacks that he reflects will not even damage him. So overall he's an amazing tank, an amazing character because of his passive for arena and especially Champions Arena, and a very big pain in the ass to deal with when it comes to Champions Arena. Again, for this guy you could kind of argue for him to be higher on this list. It just comes to personal opinion, because in my opinion, while this guy is very useful and he's very tanky, he does not directly buff the capabilities of your damage dealers or stuff like that while he is not in the fight. And usually in the arena there is also the question of time, like I want to finish my fights faster so I can play more arena in this day, so he does not help you with that. He helps you with being very tanky, but when he's out of the fight he's not going to be that good, and for some damage dealers there are better options, but nevertheless he's going to be an amazing tank that you can just stick in any team that you're missing a character in, and he will perform amazingly. So with all that being said, he will get the number 7. Let's move on to number 6. Coming in at number 6, we'll have Batman Jaguar GRODD. He's going to be amazing because of the fact that he is on one hand going to decrease the defense and the damage of the enemy with every 5th successful basic attack, and at the same time for every unblocked successful lethal attack he will help you gain bars of power. So basically he's going to reduce the defense of the enemy and he's going to give you power. What more would you want from a character? This is basically the best combo builder and the perfect combo builder in the game, and while he is going to also have a shield, and that will make him extremely tanky. So overall he is maybe the best character in this list, but why didn't he make it higher than this spot? Well, there's a little bit of a problem. While Batman Jaguar GRODD is a very good character, he's also very good in a specific team. In the Batman Ninja team. So while you can use this at very high potential in any other team in the entire game, if you do that you will leave the Batman Ninja team without an essential character. So while in theory this is a great character to use as support character and combo builder for many characters, even in raids, the problem is that if you are doing that you are not going to be able to properly use the Batman Ninja team. So while he's an extremely versatile character, and that's why I put him on his list, he's great, he's amazing, he's good at everything. Unfortunately, he is very much needed by a specific team, and that's why he didn't make it any higher on this list. Yet again, with the mention that he might be the best character on this list overall, we will move on to the number 5. Next up, we're going to have Emerald Green Lantern. So Emerald Green Lantern will be on this list because of the fact that he will have a passive that will give you some certain buffs on tagging. He will give you critical attack damage or 2 power bars or some chance to stun the enemy with your basic attacks. And all those are going to be great and are going to be triggered again and again during the whole duration of the fight. By you just tagging your characters. So except for when you're fighting horrific Scarecrow or phase 2 in raids, and by the way, don't use this guy as support character in raids, he's meant for arena and campaign and champions arena. So except for those 2 scenarios, name a team that does not tag in and out. So everybody's going to tag in and out, everybody's going to benefit from all these buffs. Well, yet again, you might have the situation where you already have maximum critical attack damage on a character and he will not benefit from the increased critical attack damage, but the power bars that he will give and the stun duration on basic attack and the stun chance on basic attacks that he will give will be amazing in any single situations, and this is going to go on and on during the whole duration of the fight. So that's why he made it so high on this list, and on top of that he can stand his own as a pretty decent damage dealer, and is going to be very tanky because of his second ability. So overall, while he performs pretty good in some teams, he can perform well in any team that you are going to put him in. And he's going to be very accessible. You can farm him from the 3rd chapter of campaign, also has a heroic chest, also drops from raids. Even if you don't want to get this character, you'll eventually have him. So with all that being said, he didn't score higher on this list because his buffs are not so impactful, and there's a character on this list that is going to be just a better variant of him. So with all that being said, let's move on to the next character. Next up, we're going to have Horrific Scarecrow, and he's going to be on this list solely for his passive. So his passive is going to do the following: will decrease by 10% the attack of the enemy team, and the most important factor is the fact that he will increase the power bar cost of your enemy's ability. So whenever the enemy wants to use an ability, he will have to pay 2 more bars of power for that. So that means overall that he will dramatically decrease the amount of abilities that your enemy is going to use upon you in a fight. So go ahead, I'm listening. Tell me one character in the entire game that will not benefit from this passive. There's none. While some characters, don't get me wrong, some characters have much better proper teams to put them together. If you are lacking certain characters, or if you are a new player and your roster is just basically a mix and match, you can't put him in a team that will not make him useful. Every single team in the entire game will benefit from his passive. Every single team in the entire game will take full advantage of this, because this is not going to be a buff that applies to you, it's going to be a buff that applies to your opponent. So as long as you have an opponent, and you will also always have an opponent, this ability is going to be useful for you, and no matter what team you're using, you will be able to resist more against it, because their abilities will cost much more. So with all that being said, he didn't score higher on this list because there are much better characters ahead of him, but you could argue for him being in the 3rd spot instead of the 3rd spot character that I'm going to mention next. It's just think about the personal preference. So let's move on to number 3. So coming in at number 3, you are going to have ATROCITUS, and you are going to see something very similar to Emerald Green Lantern that we talked about before. He will have a passive very similar to him, but much better. So he can either give you a shield that reflects the incoming damage for 12 seconds, and that's a lot, and that's kind of annoying in some situations to fight against. He is going to be able to give you 9 seconds of lethal chance attack boost, and he can also steal 3 bars of power, not give you 3 bars of power, steal them from the enemy. So it means that the enemy will lose 3 bars of powers and you will gain 3 bars of powers. So basically this is another buff that will be triggered on tag in. So you can trigger this limitless times in a fight. Well, of course limited by the time limit and by the amount your characters are, of damage your characters are able to take. But this character can be put in every single team in the entire game, and the thing is those passives are going to be useful basically almost no matter what build you have, because there are very few characters in the game that build little attack chance, and for any other character that does not build little attack chance, that additional little attack chance, even though not the most optimal stats on them, will help them tremendously. So he made it so far on this list because he's going to have very great buffs that can be reactivated on tagging, and for most characters in the entire game you are not going to have any useless buff that you can receive from him. You can make it higher on this list because the other two characters are even more versatile in any team that you can put them, and you'll see. But overall, he's a great character that can be put in any team if you have him, and you can't go wrong with him. Okay, so the next character on this list will be Silver Green Lantern. Silver Green Lantern will be over here because of his passive alone. This will give at the start of the match a shield equal to 25% of your character's health that will absorb that damage. And on top of that, while your characters are getting hit and that shield is going to get chunked down, you are not going to be staggered. So basically the enemy is going to be like, oh, let's hit this guy, and you are not going to flinch and you can counter attack back. So while this serves a main role of giving you 25% additional health basically for every character that you are going to have in that specific fight, on top of that, it is going to allow you to interrupt the enemy, and you are going to make that 25% health much more worth than it looks on paper. So overall, it's going to be a great character that you can stick in pretty much any team in the game. Yet again, name one character that will not benefit from this buff. And yes, there are characters in the game that need a very specific team, a team of 3 characters, or they will downperform. If you were to replace a character in that team with Green Lantern, they will not perform better, but the thing is, it will still be beneficial for them to have him. So overall, an amazing character that you can put in any team that you are undecided what to put in. And he's going to be pretty hard to come by nowadays. He used to be in the arena store, but if you have him, you can just use him in any team that you desire. So with all that being said, we are going to move at number 1, and I don't think I need to explain why this guy didn't make it to number 1 after I will reveal the number 1 pick. Coming in at the number 1 spot, we'll have Power Girl and Dr. Fate. Yes, yet again 2 characters at the number 1 spot, and last time I talked about them, I did put Dr. Fate in the show. Now I'll show up Power Girl, but with the mention that Dr. Fate is basically almost the same character as her. So why is she over here? +1 damage every 10 seconds of the fight, we don't care about that, get out of here. What we are interested in is that -2 to teams' power bars for their special abilities. And boy, oh boy, I see so many new players that have Dr. Fate in their roster, and they're like, I don't have support characters, I don't know what support characters to put in my team. Well, bro, you got Dr. Fate over there, are you using your Dr. Fate? Oh no, I'm not using Dr. Fate. Then start using Dr. Fate, because of the fact that -2 bars of power, even if you have him at 3 stars, -1 bars of power will be amazing for you. So you might think, as a new player, of course, that's not amazing. You're going to be like, well, yes, instead of 7 bars of power, I'm going to pay 5 bars of power. I'm going to save 2 bars of power. Yeah, first time you do it. Second time is going to be 4 bars of power. Third time is going to be 6 bars of power, and so on and so on. And while you are going to go through a fight, especially in raids when the fights are going to most of the times take the entire duration, you are going to come to the conclusion that for having Dr. Fate or Power Girl in your team, you are going to save up a total of 30 power bars or something like that. Those are amazing characters that you can put in any single team, and any single team will benefit because of them, because special abilities are a core mechanic to the game, a mechanic that any character is going to use, and having those costs reduced is going to be only beneficial for you. So with all that being said, this is my pick for the number 1, and now let's get into talking through the list and stuff like that. So those are the characters that I had to show you on this list. Those are, in my opinion, definitely the 10 most versatile characters that you can put in any single team in the entire game. But the ranking of them might be a little bit subjective, because anything we do, any list where we rank things is a little bit subjective based on our experience, based on what character we like. While I have tried to be as unbiased as possible while making this list, I might be wrong at some points, or you guys might have just a different opinion, and that's okay. Just let me know down in the comments if you have a different opinion. We can have a discussion for it. This is my thumbnail list for the most versatile character in the entire game and the most useful that can stick in any team. So if you are unable to make teams for yourself and you are missing that third character, just look at this list, pick one character, put it in there, and you are going to be fine. So with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. Like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, comment down below for any questions that you might have. Subscribe for more content like this, and by the way, at 2000 we are starting live streaming, so subscribe for that. And with all that being said, maybe press that bell button, and I'll see you in the next one.